In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Come, Lord Jesus, teach us how to pray. Lord, I thank you for the gift of this life and the gift of this day. I thank you for the gift of this university, the gift of this department to be able to explore vocations. Lord, I thank you for the gift of the vocation of nursing. I thank you for the gift of all nurses who serve in such important ways. As we're weak and unable to care for ourselves, these people step in and sort of take care of us in a way that is unseen in any other field. Lord, I thank you for the gift of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady and the work that they do here in Baton Rouge and at the hospital. I ask that you continue to pour grace into their work and continue to help them to grow and preach the gospel. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome.
So a little bit of background about me. I've worked in a lot of different healthcare settings. I've worked inpatient, outpatient, same day procedures, just finishing up my nurse practitioner degree. And my experience has been really varied in that way, and I've really enjoyed that. It's also given me a lot of perspective and a lot of different circumstances to practice in. So, in particular, um, in one of the places I worked in was a level 1 trauma center in the ER. And so, for the people who don't know what a level 1 trauma center means, it essentially means like sickest of the sick, the worst trauma, everything gets sent to us. So I'm working in that department, and you're really faced with new things every day, new experiences, new circumstances. There's one particular instance where, there are really funny stories that happen, but there are also really sad stories, and there's like everything in between. So probably one of the most shocking maybe things that I can appropriately say on a podcast
Yeah.
being in the ER is there was a gentleman who I'll never forget reading this triage note. Everyone who comes into the ER gets triage, which is essentially like, what are you here for? How sick are you? Do we need to see you right now, or can you wait for a bit? This was a gentleman who had eaten hot dogs that he had injected with antifreeze that he had intended to use to trap and bait some raccoons that were on his property. He was on the grill. He got the dogs mixed up, and he had eaten the ones with antifreeze in them, and he was super concerned.
Oh my.
So, the most just imagine me like 10 hours into a 12-hour shift. I'm like kind of delirious, and I see that pop up, and I'm just like, you know what? This is just par for the course. This, come on in, let's check you out, kind of thing. But like,
Oh
my goodness, the things that people come in for. Probably one of the more situations that really paints the picture of the fragility of just the human experience that nurses step into. I remember it was 7 a.m. coming onto a shift, and I had 2 trauma patients that were assigned to my area. So each nurse kind of gets divvied up a area of the unit. One of the traumas was a son, one of the traumas was a father. And they were both there because they got into a physical altercation, and they were very injured. The both of them for very, very sad reasons. They had gotten into this altercation. And I'll never forget walking into one room, taking care of the son, hearing all the reasons why he wanted to hurt his father, and then going into the other room right next door to the father, taking care of him, and hearing all the reasons that his son shouldn't have hurt him. And it's almost like whiplash, right?
Yeah.
You see like a father and a son, supposed to be this loving, protecting, caring relationship, and both of them are there because they tried to kill each other. And it's like, me as a nurse, I'm supposed to, without respect to the law, I don't care about, what laws you broke. I don't care about, we take care of prisoners every day. I don't care about why you're in prison. I don't care what prison you're at. I'm here to just take care of you and whatever's happening right now. And so that's the flip side, of, really, that was a hard, I think I had them for 5 or 6 hours before going up, managing their pain, uh, taking care of everything from feeding to toileting to everything for the both of them. So that's one of the days that sticks in my mind. That was pretty challenging to walk away from. Yeah, and not take that home with me.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
I think that's something that's really important about nursing is like being able to set the boundary of like this should not bleed into my entire life. In every aspect. I think it's important to allow the lessons, like it's important to learn lessons from other people, but not make you have to carry the weight for. I mean, it's so much weight.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is something that I'm still learning how to do. It's extremely hard as a new nurse to learn how to not take work home.
Yeah.
That is so tough, especially whenever things don't go right, whenever things go horribly wrong, or even whenever things are great and like you want to, it's awesome whenever you can tell an amazing story how you saved someone's life, but it's also really tough whenever you say, hey, we tried to save this person's life for 2 hours, we're exhausted, everyone is like dripping sweat from doing compressions, from giving all kind of medicines, trying all these interventions, and we weren't able to get it back. And oh, the mom and dad are right outside, and this was their only grandmother left, or son or whoever, right? Like that's really tough to leave, and so I've had to find my own way to learn how to do that. And I think a lot of nurses, burnout is a very complicated topic in nursing that can almost have its multiple episodes dedicated to it. But one of the reasons that nurses burn out is not being able to have that boundary of you need to show up to the hospital, be invested in your patient, you need to advocate for them, you need to be giving 100%, but you need to be able to say like, once I leave this hospital, I leave all of that here. And that's tough. And we're human, so there's only so much that we can do. What I've ended up doing for what I've learned to do is every time I leave the hospital, I say a specific prayer to Mary and ask for her intercession to be like, Mary, they're yours. I can't do anything about anything that I've seen, anything I've done once I leave this hospital. Please intercede for them, pray for them, take care of them like you took care of your son. And I leave. But that's taken me years to have the willpower and the forethought to consciously make that act of surrender. Once you leave, 100%. It's not easy.
I was gonna say, I feel like that would even be like a lifelong thing because, I mean, to literally surrender out of like, there's so much desire that you have to carry for these people, and to be like, I can't do, I have to like step back and go home because I need to rest in order to serve you well another day. And it's like, but then another part of you is like, no way, keep going. It's like, I could totally understand like the burnout and even just like the exhaustion of like feeling like, maybe I'm not working right now, but like I'm still wrapped up in work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a very common phenomenon that that you'll see if you're practicing as a nurse or you want to be a nurse or you're in nursing school. You're going to see this phenomenon where after a shift, you're almost kind of delirious, like you want to keep going. Like, oh, I can just do one more thing. Oh, like let me just go do this or this, that, or the other. And you end up staying for another 3 hours just because you get, after a 12-hour shift, because you keep getting roped in thing after thing after thing. But what I started having to do was making a conscious effort whenever I came on shift, was telling the person who was giving me a report, go home, stop what you're doing, let me take over, you need to go home. Because like there's so many times like you just get like you want to keep going, you're like, oh, like I started this, let me go finish this or this, that, the other. But I've really tried to be, the kind of nurse that like wants to take that from them and be like, look, you've just spent the last 12 hours here caring for the sick and dying. Go home.
Yeah.
Let me take over. And that's really tough. That's not easy. And you only learn how to do that by practice.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can read in a book or in school that's going to teach you how to do that. It's only through practice and the grace of God that you can you can step away and not have it impact you in a negative way.
Yeah. Man, and like also like the way that you have to serve your coworker, right? Because like you said, like I have to like ask you, please, like
let me take over.
Let me love you and serve you by doing my job. Like go rest.
100%.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I don't think that you get that normally with a lot of jobs. Like there are ways you can collaborate and work together, but I mean, there are not many jobs where you're like you need like physically need to go rest. You've been working for 12 hours straight. Go. Yeah, I think that's really awesome. Yeah, I want to start to get into nursing and how that sort of happened for you.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, here at Friend U, it is a very common career path, but I don't think that that takes away from its uniqueness and being called to that. And I want to sort of get into where did you sort of, or I guess maybe what was the first inclination of like, maybe I want to do nursing for you?
Yeah. So I know that I've always been interested in healthcare. That's something that I knew from a young child. I totally bought and fed into and watched like every medical show growing up. Like I never got into Grey's Anatomy. That's one show that I could just never really get into, but I got into a lot of medical shows and I was like, oh man, like this must be what like medicine is like. Like that's so cool. And that's fine to kind of like, get someone's attention, but I mean, that's never going to keep you in a nursing program or working. I mean, that's never going to be enough. But so I started just really, I started with shadowing programs. I started just kind of wanting to see like what all the different options are in healthcare. It's not like the TV shows where the doctor does everything or like the nurse does everything. Like there are so many people and so many vocations in healthcare that you can go into. And so I really think it's important to kind of explore all those options. But what I found through my shadowing and through just seeing what the day-to-day care is like, I thought I wanted to be a doctor at first. But after I started, doing some programs and I wanted to be the person actually taking care of the patient, like doing the work, the physical nursing care that makes them get better. And that's what drew me to nursing. Because I wanted to actually do them, like take care of them.
Yeah.
And I'd say that interest was definitely edified by my own medical journey. There were definitely some times when I had to be in the hospital like over and over again, for a period of time. And I remember the impact that the nurse that was taking care of me had on me. And I remember how powerful it was to be cared for by someone who was deeply concerned and vested and like wanted me to get better. It was working for me to get better. It wasn't just like checking off a box. This was a nurse. I don't remember what she looks like. I don't remember her name, but I remember how she made me feel. Right. And that's a very common thing that you'll hear. Like people will most likely not remember your name or what you look like, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. Right. So I remember how this nurse made me feel. I remember the power and the impact she had on me. And that was really something that strengthened my desire to be a nurse. Now, I will say that that interest and that desire was continuously edified in prayer and my own spiritual discernment. And at the same time, that calling is still something that's being grown and still something that's developing over time, you know. So that's something that even as I experience new things in nursing, as I transition, my career path in nursing, that calling has stayed the same, but I would say that it's just gotten stronger over time, and I've begun to more clearly understand what the Lord is calling me to by serving Him in this profession.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I think that that's really unique because I think that there's a lot of, I mean, even like the understanding of like I become a nurse and then there's so many other ways that I can nurse,
Yeah.
right? And like, okay, that's not the case. And so like it gives you a lot of room to be like, I don't have to be the nurse. I can be a nurse practitioner. I can be,
100%.
I can nurse and only sort of, I think there's like a way to like only serve families. Is that a thing? Like,
Right. Yeah.
there's so many different aspects and ways to like sort of, I guess, niche in nursing.
Yeah.
And that's like really beautiful about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think people realize that, like, the nursing profession is in every corner of industry, culture. If you want to go work at a plant, there's an occupational nurse there that is for you. If you want to go work for the government, there are public health nurses there. If you want to go work for a research institute, there are nurses there. If you want to go work for a hospital, a doctor's office, there are nurses there. If you want to be like a recruiter for nurse staffing companies, if you want to recruit other nurses, if you want to be a nurse that does transport, right? So like transport supercritical patients from the middle of the woods to the hospital. If you want to be like an organ transplant nurse, right? So like there are nurses whose specific job is to coordinate organ donation on a 24-hour basis. There, I mean, it's really endless, and I think that's what is just super appealing about the profession is that that calling from the Lord can look different in different seasons of your life. And so there are times when there was a time when ER nursing was my thing. I loved it. I loved the adrenaline of it. I loved the, the action, the intensity, all that kind of stuff. But once I started having kids and I, had a wife and I was growing my family, working holidays and weekends and weird hours just did not work for my family, right? So, and then whenever I went back to school, that was also tough. So like that calling was able to pivot, right? To be, I'm going to take a different nursing job to where I'm still taking care of patients, but, it's better suited for my family. And that's such a gift for people that I wish more people realized is that the nursing profession is so diverse. There is something for everyone. If you want to be in management, nurses run the hospital. I don't think people realize that. Like the day-to-day stuff that happens, who decides where a patient goes to, what unit, who decides who takes care of those patients? Doctors aren't the ones making those decisions. It's nurses who are running the day-to-day functions of a hospital. Nurses, a lot of times, run the physician office practices. So like the manager of a physician, a private practice, is a lot of times a nurse, So like people don't realize that like the training that nursing school gives you is really opening up endless opportunities for you to function in literally almost any capacity in society.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. So where did you sort of start to discover this? Because like a lot of this stuff that you're talking about, I had no idea that like regarding nurses managing private practices, like I would think that maybe they hired a couple to like assist in the background, but like that's pretty crazy that a nurse is like sort of running this thing for them?
Yeah, so I mean, it totally depends on like what your interests are, right? So like, uh, nurses who are drawn to the administration part of patient care
Mm-hmm.
fill those positions of running the units. You
Yeah.
know, like my manager, every hospital unit that I've worked at has been a registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't say that that's the experience everywhere, but because I do know that, there are people who are more trained in the business side who kind of step in to run
Yeah.
and, to run some healthcare facilities. But my perspective is that every inpatient hospital unit that I've worked on at the hospital I've worked at has been a nurse. And I think that really that changes the perspective of how they lead, because it's really different whenever you're managing something that you have done yourself.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience. You understand it, your perspective is different, and it even helps your employees get behind you better because you've walked in their footsteps. You've kind of walked the mile. Now you're
Yeah.
leading other members of your unit to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the opportunities really are endless.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I didn't even think about it like that, but it makes sense, right? Like, this is something that I've given so much of my time to go to school for and then work in it. And now I get to sort of lead it. So I know what these people are going through because I've been through it. And I know how to assist them because if maybe someone assisted me. But also, like, I feel like it would bring, like, if I was a nurse, it would bring me comfort knowing that the person that's leading me sort of knows the steps and is not going to give me a false step and have me fall. Like, they know where I need to be and what I need to do in order to be successful.
And that's not to say that every manager is perfect, right?
No,
They're
no,
human,
right.
but I do think the idea of having um, a nurse lead nurses and a healthcare professional lead other healthcare professionals, definitely it impacts the staff that you're leading just differently.
That's awesome. Cool. So I want to get back to sort of your story.
Yeah.
So talking about doing all of this job shadowing, excuse me. Um, what sort of was okay, so after you did this, what was like your search of like, okay, now I need to go to school. How does that even work?
Yeah. So I was, I was very uh, thankful that the Lord had opened doors that made my decision to come to FRANU pretty obvious, through scholarships and just other things that had happened that just really made my discernment very easy that, like, okay, the Lord is calling me here.
Nice.
And I was at first signed up for pre-med because, or like the pre-professional human medicine track, because at first I thought I wanted to, like I said, I thought I wanted to be a physician whenever I was applying and, all that kind of stuff. But that shift to, wait, I actually think I want to do nursing happened after I'd even put in my application. So by the time I started, I think I had changed my major before like the semester even started. And I was like, hey, sorry to do this, but I would like to change my major. And I hadn't even started school yet. So this is going to be great.
Yeah.
But no, like I started getting into the pre-nursing courses. I was pretty, I really wanted to graduate in 8 semesters because that's how long my scholarship lasted for. So I really put, it was tough to do it like that, but I'm very thankful that I did. So took all the prereq courses and had some really heavy semesters. Had to take a couple summer semesters, but I mean, I look back on it and I do everything again.
Yeah.
The same way.
That's really awesome. What would you say was like, I guess let's start at the beginning because there's two different sections, I guess, that I would say of nursing school, right?
Absolutely.
There's preclinical and then clinical.
Absolutely.
Are those, I mean, they're vastly different, I'm assuming.
Very much.
So I guess let's start with the preclinical, since that's how they do it. What, as you're sort of going through this, how are you what is the mindset of like, okay, this stuff is really important, because it actually is super necessary for when I get to my clinicals, or
Right.
is that, how does that work?
Absolutely. So, the prerequisite coursework is criteria that is set at a state level, and kind of, there are a lot of kind of factors that go into like what does pre-nursing curriculum look like. Generally, across the board, it's going to consist of biology, anatomy, physiology, chemistry, micro. Uh, Here at Frame U, we put a special emphasis on being formed or knowledgeable about the Catholic faith. So part of that prereq coursework is going to be taking an intro to theology course and a ethics course, which I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. But, the prerequisite coursework is really giving you the tools and the building blocks to understand nursing practice and why it is the way that it is.
Okay.
It really does kind of set the foundation for you to start doing your nursing clinical coursework. And it can sometimes feel like you are learning, I remember being in chemistry class and being like, okay, I'm really struggling to figure out why I'm having to learn acid-base balances. Like, I don't know why I have to learn this, like, da-da-da. But anyone who's in nursing school will find out that there are acid-base disorders that we learn about. We learn how to treat. We learn how to detect them. So, like, understanding the pathophysiology disease that leads to acid-base imbalance is actually, like, super important. It makes your life way easier if you can get it, if you understand the concepts beforehand going into a clinical course. Some people will say that, like, interprofessional communication is not useful, but, like, if you're in nursing practice, you're interacting with a whole lot of other people, many of whom have different temperaments, have different personalities. And as a nurse, you really do have to learn how to navigate and interact with a team of people who think differently, have different temperaments.
Yeah.
And that's super important because, like, as a nurse on the floor, you're interacting with physicians, other nurses, nursing assistants, speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, dietitians, like chaplains. All these people are involved in the care of just one patient. And I always tell my students that, on the one of the things I do is I help teach the undergraduate BSN students and their clinical rotations in the hospital. And that's one thing that I tell them is that, like, nothing should happen to that patient without you knowing about it. Right? So, like, you should know, are they getting PT? Are they getting speech therapy? Have they come yet today? Like, you should kind of know the plan and all that kind of stuff. And the only way you can do that is if you know how to effectively interact with all these different people in the team.
Yeah.
So that's just some examples of why courses that students can struggle with, are actually really important. My biggest thing that I'll say is every course is there for a reason. It doesn't mean that you're going to use absolutely everything from that course, but in my nurse practitioner school, I'm actually having to go back to some of the fundamental chemistry stuff that I learned way back in undergrad that I just haven't had to do anything with since then, So that to say, you never know when you're going to need that info, and whenever it comes to nursing courses like pathophysiology, pharmacology, fundamentals of nursing, your nursing concept courses, you really do need, if you don't have a good foundation in the building blocks, you're going to really stumble as you're going through the clinical courses.
Yeah. Wow. Seems like it's very heavy. And I mean, it sort of fits like with what I've heard from other people that are going through this. But I also think that there's a necessary, like, in preparing you for your clinicals, there's like a need to be like, you're about to get into something that's, you're like nursing. And I think that's even the mindset of the student. Like, I'm not sort of just taking business courses. Like, I'm setting myself up to be in a career where people's lives are in my hands.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I need to be locked in all the time. Because if I'm not, like, there's big time issues. It's not like someone lost a stock. Someone lost their life.
Absolutely. So, like, the nursing coursework and curriculum is specifically designed to train you how to critically think, how to implement evidence-based, safe nursing practice, and that doesn't happen without rigorous coursework, long hours of studying, long hours of being in the hospital. Kind of like what you said, like, this is different than, I'm going to use like a really out there example, botany. Right. If I wanted to be like, my wife's sister is a horticulturist, right? So hypothetically, if she were to mess up one of her experiments, she'd just have a botched experiment, right?
Yeah.
If I mess up what medications I give you, if I mess up how I give this medication, that can have lethal consequences. There are medicines to where if I give them into your vein versus in your butt with an IM injection, that could kill you. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, there are some medicines that literally have on the vial, if administered IV, fatal. Right? So, like, one of the things that I do right now while I'm finishing up NP school is I do chemotherapy and immunotherapy nursing. So I'm giving chemo all day long. I'm giving immunotherapy all day long. If I mess up how I do that, that can have really severe consequences for that patient who's already literally getting poison injected into them, right? So the reason that nursing coursework is so rigorous, one, is just because it's difficult. Like, there's nothing that, it's just tough. Like, science is tough, healthcare education is tough, and it should be tough. Right?
Yeah.
It should be rigorous. It should be kind of tough to get through. You should be kind of sweating a little bit going through it, right? But I think it's also meant there to ensure that the right kind of person is getting through this, track.
Yeah.
Right? The nursing profession doesn't need just more people. We do need more nurses, 100%. But I would rather take, 50 really good, solid nurses than 100, kind of nurses that, that were kind of trained well, but have a lot of gaps here and there. Because what's going to happen with that 100? They're going to hurt people.
Yeah.
And negative things are going to happen because of that. So, like, we would rather have really strong students make it through this curriculum, right? And the university does an amazing job with giving, like, all the resources we can to ensure that students can be successful. But, like, something I think about, and this is kind of, this is something that people don't always want to hear, but I think back to, like, St. Paul's writing about we are one body but many parts. And one part cannot say to another part that you're not a necessary part of the body, right? Without an eye, you can't see. Without an ear, you can't hear. You need them both to be a human, right? Or to function normally, right?
Sure.
So that to say, I really do think that there are some people whose innate gifts and talents and well-formed desires just don't align with what the nursing profession demands. And sometimes people find that out once they're in the clinical curriculum, which can kind of be disheartening because you're like, okay, I've already put so much into this.
Yeah.
Am I about to have to switch professions? Some people, that's the answer, like, hey, like, this may not just be for you. And my hope and that my advice to students is to really nail down why do you want to be a nurse? Like, what is drawing you? We can teach you how to put in an IV. We can teach you how to put in an NG tube. We can teach you what medicines to give. We can teach you a lot of things. We can't teach you to care.